you guys, it's me, Dr. Torie. My book is officially out. And yes, it is time to talk about ACEs. You guys can find the books everywhere. However, I would encourage you guys to go to my website, Be VicTORIEus.com, and place your order today. Yes, it's time to talk about ACEs. Let's go, y'all.
Hello, hello, you guys. Welcome to another episode of Be Victorious. You know who I am, the one that creates victory in people. I love doing what I do. And when I tell you this cycle breaker series is good. Now, this guest, let me tell you, I actually heard him speak at a conference, and the way that he poured in a room, I had to get his attention because I wasn't for sure if he knew about ACEs, but his book told me. So not only is he in education, not only is he an author, I'll save the best for last. He is a former NFL professional football player who is using his story to not only impact youth, but to spread awareness. Doctor, author, principal, life changer, and cycle breaker, Dr. Dyson, where are you?
Hey, good evening.
Like that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I appreciate that. I like
Uh-huh. Us educators honestly have to stick together.
that.
When it's having these conversations, yes, it's
Uh-huh.
great to be who we are, but what people really don't understand, it's those experiences that got us to where we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't matter how we use those experiences to advance in life too. I think part of the time we run from them, we hide them, and we try to bury them. And as I've gotten older, I've started to recognize, obviously, yeah, I need to utilize those
Right.
because lessons in them. And how can I help the next person, and even myself in some regards? So yeah, man, you remember as a kid, you thought a certain age was old, and you realize, man, that's just knowledge that they're gaining as you get older. Because that's exactly what I feel like as I've gotten older, just continue to gain knowledge.
Yeah. Now, 1998 was a good year for you.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
16th pick in the NFL draft. So you've been in the Tennessee area for a long, 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 long time.
Yeah, yeah, 27 years. It was I got drafted April of 1998, and man, I retired in 2005.
Hmm.
And then I just, made this home. I just started working my way through the educational ranks, coaching and doing those types of things. And then I also had some opportunities to do some things out here from a uh, just a personal growth standpoint. I was doing TV, I had done radio, speaking, locally. Now I'm being able to travel more nationally doing some things. But yeah, man, it just helped me grow as a person outside of football. I had to learn some things over. One thing, I went from high school to college to pro, and within each of those transitions, like even stuff like making my own doctor's appointment, I didn't have to do.
Right.
And so when you retire at 30 years old, and now you're making your own doctor's appointment, paying your own doctor bills, all the different things you got to do that you think that you are grown, and then starting all over in your 30s. It was a transitional. It was a good transitional learning curve for me. But no, we're here, and hopefully I can continue to grow and instill that in my own kids, let alone the kids that I'm around on a daily.
You are an educator, you're a mentor. You
Yeah.
have so many hats that you wear. Now, had you heard about ACEs before?
Yeah, I have. I think we did something similar in a leadership group in the principals of the school system I was at. And so we talked about childhood trauma and how it affects how we are as adults and how we can lean in, not just for our personal selves, but the people we're surrounded with, who we work with on daily, and the kids that we're responsible for. And I had some experiences with it before.
And this is what we want to do, Mr. Principal. You're in a position where not only you in the city where it looks different in Tennessee than it looks somewhere else.
Hmm.
Our areas of inclusion in the BIPOC area is different in different. It really varies from state to state. As much as I love Tennessee, you also have schools, HBCUs, the poverty levels, things like that that are really at an all-time high. But that is the reason why ACEs education is so important, and you're in a position to do that. I want to actually shout you out on your books because you have books out there. You have tools out there
Hmm.
that help people heal. So before we go into talking about one of your books, do you know your ACEs score?
Um, I, yeah, yeah, I'm kind of right in the middle.
Me
Um,
too.
yeah, I'm right in the middle. I think there's obviously single family home, things of that nature that is I guess was my normal, didn't even think about it. But there were
Yeah.
some things that on there that kind of surprised me that I wasn't high. But I'm trying to remember what my numbers were. But I remember it's kind of right in the middle, I believe.
And
When it
mine's is a 5. And I tell people every time, it really depends on the day. Because if you look, and I will share, the original ACEs study had 50 plus questions. So
yeah,
what some doctors decided to do was narrow those down to 10. And people really don't like talking about those, which is the reason why me and Professor Charlie came up with that study. The study is really to just bring identification to something that we normalize, like you said.
yeah,
We
yeah,
fives. We okay with being, 5 or 6s, but if you break that ACEs quiz down really and answer those questions, then we up there. The
yeah.
the rate now is 1 in 3 have an ACEs score.
Yeah. And when I think when I did it here recently, I was basing it off current. I wasn't even thinking about past stuff. And so my score was lower. But when I had done it before, I think my score was really high. And I think, yeah, again, it's a matter of how they're verbalized and what context you're thinking of the question in, maybe because I was thinking of a different time period, probably the 2 or 3 separate times I've done it.
Yeah.
That's why I say I'm probably somewhere in the middle because I
Mhm.
have been very high on one end, and I think I was low of more recent. So I think I'm more in the middle.
And that's fine. And I will tell you that we're in this community, we don't let our ISIS score define us at
Yeah,
all. There are
yeah,
people with perfect tens that brag about it. And I'm saying brag because if you look at who they are and how they've healed, it's worth the brag.
yeah,
Like, me, what's interesting is you met me as Dr. Williams, but I'm seriously a first generation high school graduate. First
wow,
person in my family to go to college and get a doctorate degree on both sides of my family. So
wow,
really, when I do speaking engagements, I really have to ask, what are you looking for? Because I'm going to always talk about ACEs because it's a part of my story.
yeah,
It's a part of your story too.
yeah. We talked about that
Hmm.
and how to utilize that and leverage it. Being
Hmm.
part of, now I'm in this process of developing a school.
Yep.
I left my previous role as a principal to take on the journey of and creating a charter school, and it's centered around health, physical and mental health, and how we help kids and students achieve their optimum. There's so much going on in the world, and there's so
It is.
much documentation and things on attendance rates and suicide rates and social media and everything that transpires and all the trauma that kids are going through and at young ages not able to fully comprehend themselves.
Yep.
And that's one of the reasons why I kind of left and wanted to um, build a school that was somewhat a school that I felt like when I was a kid, this was kind of school I would love to attend. And plus some things as an educator I've learned over the past 20 years to be able to say, okay, this is what I've seen. There's some of these gaps that I feel like is needed in a public school setting and
Yep.
being able to incorporate those things.
Yep. And let me be blunt. And we are going to do this because let's
Yeah,
be clear, it's needed. I think that's what I really liked is the fact that you are aware about ACEs. Yes, you have the charter school. Yes, you have the seeds. You've already planted the seeds. And now all you need to do is execute. And it would be my pleasure. Let's be clear. I'm not saying that this is why you're here on the podcast. Here on the podcast to bring awareness, but I actually have to give you your credit for being somebody that I'm actually witnessing and seeing you make the changes.
yeah. Well,
Because
thank
it's
you. I
one
appreciate
thing to talk about it and it's one thing to do it. It's a lot of people talking.
it. Yeah,
But you see it because you've been in a school. You've seen it because you've been a principal. You've seen it because you're in the community. So people are going to come to you before they come to anybody else because they believe in you. They believe in who you are. You're
Mm,
not telling a story about your story. You wrote a book. You're
mm,
not talking about not knowing about the kids because you've been in a position. So
yeah.
I gotta leverage you. I have no other choice
No, I
because at the
appreciate
end of the
that.
day, you're a mentor. You're
Mhm.
a role model. What kid don't want to grow up being an NFL football player?
Mhm.
But what happens when there is an injury?
Mm. And I had several. So, I appreciate you saying that too, because I think um, one of the reasons why I want to build school because there's a lot of kids in school that are just like me, and maybe because technology is a lot different. But I was that kid who my grades were decent. I was a B student, and that was just because I was made to. My mom said the only way we can play sports is if we had a 3.0 or better, a B average or better.
Right.
No sports. So I did just enough to make sure I was eligible to play, whether it be at school or my mama. And so, but I didn't understand the value of what I was being able to do at that time as a young man, which what kid understands the value of their education? It's not till you get older you understand how valuable learning is and what you should and should not get out of it. But that's one thing I've taken from my post football career is the the love of learning.
Mhm.
And I didn't have that as a young man, and all the skills that I used to become a professional athlete. I learned to put that towards my academics, and and lo and behold, it worked. The hard work, the dedication, the stick-to-itiveness, the motivation, all those things that kept me not missing a practice, not missing a game, lifting weights, running, that I just applied in another sense. It still worked out, and I think that's one thing I like to tell kids, man. You gotta have balance in life. You gotta prioritize some things. And if you're of that 1%, by all means go after it. But there's only 1%, less than 1% really that's gonna go from s- high school to the NFL. And if are you of that 1%? And you might be, and
Right.
that's fine. But you still gotta have stuff situated and set apart for you when you're done playing ball. 'Cause you don't know how long that's gonna be. My career ended early because of injury. I didn't get the mileage out of my career that I expected, or even my talent warranted.
Right.
But I had to pivot. I was 30 years old, and it's like, man, you're still kind of a young man. What are you gonna do? You got to figure some things out. And this path, I like to say, it kind of chose me. I wasn't necessarily thinking about becoming a career educator in a sense. I was doing that because really I wanted to coach football and
Right.
basketball too, but specifically football. And it just once I got in there, man, and talking and learning and being around kids and learning from some leaders and teachers that I was working with, man, I was like, okay, maybe I can do a little bit more. So, I just started to progress from there. But I think the lesson in that is life ain't always gonna go how we expect or want. And
Mm.
sometimes you're gonna have to pivot, and sometimes when you pivot, that's the path you're supposed to take anyway. And I,
Right.
I found new passions, found a new path, and to your point, it really starts with the mentoring and being able to you know dig into children and hopefully inspiring them to good less headaches than I had for myself and people that I know and alike. So that's one of the reasons I enjoy education, man, because I mean, I think about the people that influence me, whether it be coaches and teachers
Yep.
along the way, and they still hold a special spot because of the impact that they had for whatever reason. And I think that's important to me.
And let me share something.
All
I
right.
was the activity director at my school.
Hmm.
And the school that so let me share Chicago all the way. I got all of my education from Chicago. I started off as a sub. had the undergrad in psychology, but I didn't know what to do with it. So it was like,
Hmm.
what's next? Just trying to find myself. I got my master's degree first. I got my master's degree once I got pregnant with my daughter because I knew I wanted to do something when I just wanted to do something. So instead of trying to fight, I just started off as a sub. But I met so many students,
Hmm.
that I moved up. When I got my opportunity as the um, activity director, I'd already had my master's in special education. So that's where the ACEs acronym actually come in. When you think about those students with emotional behaviors,
Hmm.
that's really a stereotype. That's just me. That's just me and my personal opinion. And so
Yeah.
that's where my original study came from, putting kids in the inner city in the
Yeah.
into extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
If you look at the study that I did, the numbers were wonderful. We talking about Saturdays. I had the boys 3-on-3 basketball tournaments to keep them out of the streets, or basketball. You know what I mean? Like every season, we were doing something to get them off of the streets. So
Mm.
you are doing the work. It's what you're saying, you were driven to it when it actually really was natural, because it's natural to me. Now,
Yeah.
I also shared, I think one thing that you said that resonated the most with me is this is what we're supposed to be doing.
Mm.
I actually am doing this because with me being in the front lines, they didn't like
Yeah.
educated Black women.
Yeah.
And so I've tried to get up in the positions. I've tried to, advocate for ACEs. I've tried to do this. I've tried to speak on behalf of special education. I've tried to talk about our boys. I've tried to support our young women. But I always get the black backlash because they look at this.
Hmm.
And here it is. The Lord placed me in a position where this is what I'm doing globally. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
because that shows those kids in the inner city, like you said, this is what you know. I was born and raised in Kansas City. Shout out to the Chiefs for real. I'm a real diehard fan, for real, for real. But living in Chicago and being here in Dallas is still two, three different areas.
Yeah.
But what you are doing, your book, who you are, your experiences, the things that have shaped you to be who you are, is the reason why you're a cycle breaker. And
Hmm.
again, I promise you, I will bet money on it. You add aces to that, let these kids know that the stuff that happened wasn't normal. Yes, this happened to me, but these are the steps that I took. Watch them boys come running, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for mentorship. They're looking for guidance. Every boy wants to be a football player, but what happens when it's a second chance? What happens when it doesn't happen? What happens when it doesn't go your way? I think that's the issue with Shador. I
Hmm.
mean, I think he's great, but this is what's happening in today's society. Some people want you to succeed, and some people don't want you, and then life happens.
Yeah.
Aces is life.
Yep.
So, what's your next step?
Yeah.
That's what it is for me. You're in a position where you can really change lives, and you're already doing it. So, what is it? Is there something else that needs to be added that hasn't been discussed?
Not necessarily. I think one of the biggest things from a educator, mentor, parenting standpoint is, I think we all want to help, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes what I'm learning, even with my own son, who's a lot like me, it's okay to just sit in silence in that space, just be around him. I think
Mm,
there's a level of security that people have, or insecurity that people have, and talking sometimes that vulnerability is hard.
yeah.
And even from my own book, the little bit that I did share, me and my mom, we laughed because she's like, "Man, I left so much meat on the bone. I could have gone into a lot of like family history and things, like stuff that I was struggling through from a
Right.
young man up into adulthood, and I left a lot of meat on the bone." And that being said, there's a being vulnerable and being able to share your space with people publicly. Yeah, that is hard to do, let alone do it with somebody you love that loves you. Because for whatever reason, don't want to seem weak, don't want to give the upper hand, don't feel like you got it. And for me, it was conditioned like uh, I just because I didn't want my mom to know I was struggling because she did the same thing. She wanted me to know she was struggling. I'm the oldest. She's of a single mom with 4 kids, and so we laugh because I learned my behaviors, if you will, from her because she didn't want us to see her struggling and hurt. She wanted us to think everything was okay. So she hid a lot of that from us, and we talk about it. And now she's like, that probably was the best example. I said, "Mom, I didn't take it any other way. I mean, I get it. I understand, and now I think about what that really meant for you, not being able to have that release, not having that outlet, being able to have somebody. I'm your son. I act like the dad of the house, but I wasn't. And but not now knowing you didn't have somebody. She had her friends, of course, but on a regular where she could vent like that and just let go when she was struggling, when things were hard. I joke because I think I've seen my mother cry. Uh, uh, I don't know if I can touch all fingers on one
Oh,
hand.
really? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I know she has. I know she does. And one of those is almost like you don't count. It was the passing of her mother when her mother passed away. So that one, that's assumed, right? Uh,
Hmm.
but my mom was always strong-willed, and she's like the greatest support. And I still try to impress that woman with everything I do. And but still, she's just strong, and she tried to raise with 3 boys and 1 girl. She tried to raise 3 young men, and we did okay. Obviously, we had some success, but I think
You better quit knocking your success. You are amazing.
I appreciate that.
It's a
I
part.
appreciate
It's
that.
it's it's something that we do with ACEs. And we talked about it at the conference. We do it unknowingly. It's imposter syndrome. And
Mm,
what's interesting is I find it quite humbling coming for someone that has actually achieved a lot of success because it happens to me all the time. I will tell you, I mean, I've walked in rooms and people are like, "Oh my God, it's Dr. Torie." And I'm like, "Is it that serious?"
yeah, yeah,
But to somebody else it is. You know
yeah.
what I mean? So not to interrupt what you were saying, but
Nah, you're
I agree
good.
with you 110% because that single mom and
Mm,
you being the firstborn, yeah, you was the daddy. That's
yeah,
just how
yeah,
households are. I have my firstborn and I swear she swear. She'd be like, "Where are my kids?" I'm like, "Girl, these are your sisters, cut it out." But
uh-huh,
you have that role.
yeah.
So thank you for giving, credit to your mom because of course she's amazing. She raised a great young man, and I'm sure your brothers are doing quite well.
Yeah, this the like I said, my mom sometimes she didn't give herself grace,
Mhm.
and I had to give her validation. I give her flowers too, and I try to every chance I get. But I get it because we may have failed in other areas where we were successful in others, and I think as a parent you want all your kids to be successful and glowing and just doing just great. And we've had our ups and downs as a family and things of that nature, and hopefully we learn from them. But the thing about uh, validation and things of that nature. I always call it being humble, but I've always struggled with receiving validation. I always dismiss it and give credit to other people, or just say yeah, or I kind of diminish what I've accomplished sometimes, and I'm working on that honestly as we're talking about it. Just being just receive it, be like thank
Right.
you, and because I'm quick to pass pass the credit or pass the buck to somebody
Yeah.
else. But
And
it's
it's
something.
okay. That's why, and I shared, my example because trust me when I say it's like it's Dr. Williams, I'm like me.
Yeah, yeah,
I totally get it. But again, I think that's one thing about understanding and learning. We still have room to grow. We're learning every day.
yeah,
And once we get in front of these positions, like the Lord has put you in a space now, what you're doing in changing lives, you're going to have no other choice. People are going to be like, it was Dr. Dyson.
yeah, yeah,
You'll be ready. Trust me, you'll be ready because that's one thing that I'm actually learning. I had to, you would think that I wouldn't have a confidence coach. I had to, you know what I mean? Because I didn't know my strength and know my potential based upon my past experiences. So trust
mhm,
me, I get it. I get
yeah.
it. So I'll ask you this question.
Okay.
For someone that is starting their healing journey, like starting, like they're listening to this podcast, what would you tell them?
Mm, hey, oh man, I, one, be willing to go there. And doing therapy, all that kind of stuff. I think for me, this when I was doing them, it was just being able to say something with somebody that I didn't feel like was judging me. Because I think that's a lot of times where why we don't show vulnerability is because we know the people and we don't want to be seen any different than what we feel like they see us. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't share anything that's can be viewed as detrimental to whatever persona or reputation that we have with that person. And it's cost me relationships and things of that nature, being distant and just reserved and recluse. And that's my go-to. I tend to go in my little shell if I feel like somebody's gonna have, and I necessarily kind of retreat and get quiet, and I can get mean and wait, and I can get mean in silence. I don't have to be mean vocally and things, but my body language and my demeanor, you definitely know something's wrong, and I just wasn't able to be able to open up and go there. And I think that's been something I've really been working on. So to your question, I think you just got to uh, be able to just be reflective and understand yourself, one, and be able to just be able to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's one thing I'm trying to get better at. But when you condition for 50 years of your life one type of way, it's hard. And if I recognize something that I'm doing now, and as I'm getting older, and I got some younger kids at 14 and 12 now, and they're going through this little life transition with us, and just trying to be more vulnerable and open for them, and being able to teach, man, this is where the mistakes I made, and this is how you can be better than me. But again, like my mother, even our conversation I had with her several years ago when she was talking, we were talking about our patterns and how I've learned different um, patterns from her and demeanors from her, and she looked at it as like not necessarily a good thing. That's kind of where I'm at with mine. Like, what am I really teaching them? How am I really teaching them? Because I have failed in a lot of regards in that realm, in that space. And what's interesting is, I've written that book, and that book and that level of vulnerability, I almost didn't publish it because I was like, man, that's too much out there. I was about to call the publisher and the editor, and be like, nah, I'm not doing this. But I'm glad I did, because on the flip side of that, it was somewhat therapeutic because
Mhm.
I put it out there to the world. And again, that's a lot of meat on the bones. It was just minimal compared to really what's on in my heart and my head. I just put on the surface level because it was enough that people understand, like, this
Yeah.
wasn't easy. I wasn't like I was just skating through life with not being affected. And so that you thinking about writing that book and what we're talking about and how you encourage people is, you know, for me, that was a level of vulnerability that made me I wouldn't have never been on this podcast had I not written that book and been able
Yep.
to be sharing my story that way,
Yep.
that sort of thing. So again, there's still some therapeutic sense, and even in doing this and having this
Yeah.
conversation, and that's part of that journey. And what you tell people, man, it's a continuous journey. And I've failed. I know I'll fail again, and I'll probably fail 20 more times after that one. But still, as long as I feel like anyway, as long as I can acknowledge it when I do something that has been conditioned in me for 50 years, and I can, in that moment, I think that's growth. And that's how I'm trying to kind of look at it is, here I'm doing some of the things I did in the past, and let me go back and reflect and respond differently, or change my actions a little bit different, be a little bit more open, whatever it might be. And,
Hmm.
and that, to me, that's how I've small, very small baby, super baby steps towards that. So I'm nowhere near there, but that's kind of my mindset over the last year or so has been, and whether it's working or not, that remains to be seen. But I like to believe I'm heading in the right direction.
You are. You met the ACEs educator.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
we got work to do.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you have to let people know they know who you are, but where can they find you? Tell us about the book and tell them where they can find you. Because again, I thank you for being here, and this is a safe space. You did share.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Let people know where they can find you.
Well, social media, KT Dyson 87. That's pretty much everything you can find me on. Excuse me, Instagram, LinkedIn, Faith, all that. That's KT Dyson 87. But if you want just one-stop shop, go to kevindyson.com. You can find me, my book. I've got some merch coming out. I'm about to sell pretty soon. And then the book, man, is called Qualified, So I Am Justified. And it really the book is really about what we're talking about, man. There was a lot of self-loathing and that I had to get over. I was a first round draft pick in the NFL who had injuries, never had injuries up until I got in the NFL. And not just that, but mostly that was the reason why my career was cut short. Well, it was that because I had a coach and a GM tell me that, but
Yeah.
um, and overcoming that and not feeling adequate enough throughout my career, feeling like I never achieved what I wanted to accomplish. I felt like I let a community, a city down, my family down, and just cycling and working through all that. And again, that's part of the reason the book was written, and realized that I had to find my own identity, find a new purpose, and find something I was passionate about again to form an identity that was my own, that wasn't Kevin Dyson, the football player, the first receiver taken, or in the first round draft pick, or coming up a yard short, or Music City Miracle, all the things that I have accomplished in the world of football. I had to kind of distance myself from that identity to a sense to grow as an educator and as a man, but it's always there, and it's part of the story, it's part of the journey, and it's part of why I'm able to do the things as an educator, as a speaker, as an author, as a man. So I don't run from it. I appreciate it, but yeah. So people want to go out, check it out. It's a quick read. It's just to give you a glimpse of my story, just my journey, with my father, my mother, my brothers, my journey in the field to now, and the lessons I learned through there, and how I apply them to my life.
You're a cycle breaker.
I'm trying to be.
Nope, you are. Say
We
it.
getting there. Yeah,
Say
we getting there.
it.
We
Say
getting
it.
there.
I'm working with them, y'all. Trust
Yeah.
me. Y'all know how I get down. Y'all know another episode of Be Victorious. I again thank you for being here, and you will see more of a collaborative effort between us both, not just only as educators, but authors in this mission of healing. So, you guys, you know where to find me. I'll make sure I connect with you on LinkedIn and connect with you everywhere. But we'll be forever connected through Manifest with Mr. Charlie. So I have to shout him out.
Yeah.
Thank you again for being here. And you guys, thank you for another wonderful episode of Be Victorious. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye, you guys.
Yeah.